Just wait for a few people to come in.
Okay, okay.
Hello, everyone. Just give it another minute or so. Okay, excuse me, I think we're live on Workplace as well, fingers crossed. Okay, so hi everyone, I am very excited to be guest hosting this how-to event with Phil Story today. Phil's going to be talking to us about how to make it easier for people to use your website, which of course is absolutely vital in this day and age. I am very interested to hear what he's going to share with us, which is no pressure on you, Phil, whatsoever. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This is a webinar rather than a meeting room. It is being recorded and it's hopefully being streamed into Workplace as well. So you'll be able to view that at any time, and it's going to be uploaded to YouTube after this event has finished. So you'll be able to review this whenever you want. We have got the Q&As at the bottom and the chat function. So if there's anything that you want to ask, please do pop them in there. I'm going to be sort of monitoring that as time goes on. And I'll give Phil a shout if there's anything that he doesn't see or that you want answering. So I'm going to very quickly hand you over to Phil for him to introduce himself, what he does, and let you start sharing your wares.
Thanks, Sarah. Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. So, yeah, so this is the second how-to event I've done. So the last one was sort of security focused around your website. And today it's about making it easier for people to use. So a little bit about Glow. So Glow is an app for maintaining your website. So we have lots of small businesses that sign up to Glow and we help them with better maintaining their website. So whether that's making it more secure, making it faster to run, making it easier to use, of course, helping them with anything that they might need help with, like adding new pages, changing content, literally anything with your website that is what we can help with. And then we partner up with marketing agencies and other web development companies as well in the delivery of website maintenance. So I'm conscious of not talking too much about what Glow actually is today and making sure that I actually provide you with some value that you can take away from this call and implement in your website as soon as possible, really. I've tried to keep it quite lean. I think it's obviously a very, very techie kind of space is web development. So I've tried to make it very easy to understand, and of course, welcome any questions at any point during the call, really. So just shout up at any stage, Sarah. I'm sure you're going to do that. So really, I'll crack on. And this is kind of what I was saying a second ago, really. This is sort of my goal for this presentation. I want you to have come away with at least one, really, actionable tip that you can implement into your website as soon as possible. It's all about, like I said, making it easier to use, making sure your customers get to where you want them to get to in that journey of making their way through your website. So we'll talk a bit more about that later on, but yeah, this is my goal. So hopefully you've got your pens at the ready and you're going to learn something that will just make your website that little bit easier to use afterwards. So if there's one phrase that I have had said to me most over the years in relation to web development, if I think about when I'm sending our sort of initial questionnaire out to clients, in the proposal stage, before we start working with them, one of the questions is always, how do you want your customers and people that you know to describe your website after we've built it for you? What are the sort of words that you want them to say? And the easy to use thing comes up almost every single time. And of course it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, why make it difficult for people to use your website? It's your shop window these days. So you want to make it as simple as possible for people to get from A to B. And it's every single conversation we have with new clients. And it's a simple fact of the matter that the harder it is, the less likely people are going to be doing business with you. And it's all about credibility, isn't it? So if you take this stat, for example, 75% of people base a company's credibility as a whole on their website. So how easy is it to use? How fast is it to load? You know, those sorts of things you want to think about. So it's all about that credibility of your business. And then if you think of the flip side of that, what it says about your business if it isn't easy to use. Sometimes they'll just forget you immediately because there's loads of competition. So they'll just go straight off your website, back to Google and find a competitor's website. Other times it can be more damaging where, I don't know, it might say that it's not secure in the top left corner. And that's a really bad, portrayal of your business if it's saying things like that, which it will do nowadays. So it's all about how it looks. How does it look on a laptop? How does it look on a desktop, a mobile phone, a tablet? Obviously, as I've just covered there, how do people feel about your website as they're using it? We've all got very frustrated using websites before. We can't find the phone number. We can't find the button to click next, or the checkout isn't working, or the form breaks, or whatever it might be. That is the feeling that you're giving people as they're using your website. So making it easy to use is also about making sure that people feel very much at ease when they're using your website and they're not getting stressed out about it. So I want, like I said at the start, I really want this to be a sort of an actionable tip style presentation instead of me just talking about websites for half an hour. I want you to actually come away with something and think that's great. We haven't got that on our website at the moment. Got to speak to our web developer and get that implemented, basically. So without further ado, I will crack on with, there's 5 tips here. So yeah, fingers crossed there'll be one that'll be useful. So declutter is the first one. And you've all seen websites before that look a little bit like this, and it's just an absolute mess, basically. So I really hope yours doesn't look like this. This does appear later on, by the way, because there's so many things you could use about this website as you're critiquing it. But it's a bit of an over top of the example, I will be honest. But you're immediately looking at this screen and thinking, where on earth am I supposed to click? I think it's probably quite obvious that they're a cruise company. You can maybe see the cruise logo in the top left corner. But other than that, there's submit buttons, there's phone numbers, there's forms, there's latest deals, there's other links, there's banners on the right, on the left. It's absolutely...
I feel a bit dizzy looking at that, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, have a look at your website and make sure it doesn't represent this in any way. So like I said, it is a bit of an extreme example, but something we do see quite common with small businesses websites is that they try and cram all the different call to actions in that first screen. So you might have a phone number for your business that you want people to phone. You might have an email address. You might have a demo of your product that people can sign up to. There's lots of things and lots of ways you might want people to get in touch with you. But really, my sort of tip really here would be, obviously make sure it's nice and clear, but try and focus on one call to action on that first screen at least. So if somebody could do one thing when they land on your website, what would be that most important thing that you would want people to do? A lot of the time it might be to pick up the phone and have a conversation with you because it's very sort of personal style business. Or it might be that you want them to leave their email address to get a downloadable guide of some kind. Whatever it is, identify that and make it super clear for people to see and uncluttered. So here's an example of one that's like the total opposite of that, near enough. So that is just a million call to actions on one screen immediately, very, very cluttered. Whereas this one is much more what we would call sort of white spacey. So there's lots of space around the text, around the buttons, a nice photograph. It's all very sort of crisp and clear. So clearly thereafter, you certainly here in the middle of your screen, that after their marketing and training and marketing training services, basically. And I think you would agree that those buttons stand out nicely as well. So it's very uncluttered as a design generally. So like I said, hopefully you can quite clearly see the difference between that first one I gave you as an example and then this one as the next example. So it's nice and clear and very easy to see. So I try to give you an action after every step, basically. And obviously, a lot of the time, the action will be open your website, because you need to check it for these things that I'm giving you as tips. So have a look at your website and just compare it, firstly, nice and easily, against these two examples. Does it look more like that, or does it look more like that? And obviously, it's the latter that you're after. So just have a quick look on your website and critique that very first screen that you see. But don't just do it on a laptop either. Have a look at it on your phone. So is it nice and uncluttered on your phone as well? Because obviously the big difference between a mobile and a laptop is that there's a lot less space on your phone, and you're trying to communicate the same message. There's a lot more mobile users these days, generally speaking, on your website rather than a desktop. So make sure you're comparing these first screens, not just on your laptop. Have a look on your phone as well and see if it's nice and spacey and uncluttered on there too. So the second one, which doesn't go down well with a lot of people still, interestingly, is remove slideshows. We still see them a lot. We still get asked to add them quite a lot. Sometimes they might be relevant, sometimes in very, very specific scenarios, but they're not relevant anymore. Right up at the top of your website with big banners and things all over the slideshows and 7 slides to go through, and people just don't click through them. So much so that report that I was looking at when I was preparing this presentation reported that 1% of people click on with slideshows on your website, and yet they still are seen as this kind of cool, fancy thing to add to your website in some sectors, I guess. But it's just not the kind of done thing on your website anymore. They slow down the page load speed. The more slides that you add, 6, 7, 8 slides with big images on them, you're just adding to the weight of your page all the time. You're adding extra slides to it. So in terms of an action for this one, go away, check it, see if you've got slideshows on there. And the best thing you can do is replace it with video, because the response rate from video is far, far higher. It's way more engaging. There's a lot more you can do with it. Probably a little bit of investment required to get video on your site, of course, but in turn that should bring a greater rate of return for you on your website, basically. So yeah, get rid of slideshows. A couple of examples where they might be relevant, I guess I'm just thinking off the top of my head, really. Estate agent websites. So you often see like places like Rightmove and obviously local estate agents where you sort of slide through the property photographs. Obviously that's quite relevant for a slideshow to work in that regard. But up at the top of your website is not a place for them for the reasons I've already stated. So have a look on your site. If the slideshows there, get rid of them and try and replace them with video, or just really nice, clear headings and call to actions instead. Oh, my button's not clicking there. Okay. So the third one. So make the headline on all of your pages of your site very, very clear. Put the letters UVP after headline there, which stands for unique value proposition. And the UVP is made up of a very clear main heading, a subheading of some kind that has maybe a sentence or two of extra information related to the heading, of course, and then a very clear and obvious call to action. So usually that's a button of some kind where you're directing people to do something. So a couple of good examples and an extremely biased example coming up soon as well. But this is a good one, office vibe. So again, I'll always nip back to this example up here. See the difference between that and that. So it's so much clearer. The heading is bang in the middle of the page, big, bold heading, right slap bang in the middle. You can't miss it. And then as I described that unique value proposition, you've got the extra sentence or two just below the heading, which relates to it. Very clear. And there's that big blue button right in the middle of your screen. So guess what Office Vibe want you to do? It's so clear, isn't it? You've got a big try it free button right in the middle of your screen. So obviously they want you to sign up for their free trial. You've also got one in the top right of your screen, which is very common that you kind of replicate what your main call to action is. You pop it in the header of your your website as well. So it's super, super clear. There's no ambiguity whatsoever on this website. Some nice little graphics to accompany it, some nice logos to build that credibility at the bottom about the businesses that work with or use Office Vibe, I guess. So that would be an extra little thing you could definitely do on your website. You know, who do you work with, or can you get some testimonials in from people perhaps? And it just builds that credibility immediately, because you've got such a small amount of time to capture people's attentions when they land on your website. It's a matter of a few seconds. So be super clear with that main heading, little description, and then bang with the call to action right in the middle of the screen. So it makes it really, really obvious to the customer what you want them to do, and you're guiding them through the website from the second that they land on the site. I told you I'd come up with a very biased example as well, but I think we do it quite well at Glow, which is very similar to Office Vibe, right? So you've got the main heading up at the top. It's very obvious and clear what we do. It's about your website, and we constantly monitor it for you. So there's no ambiguity there at all. A few sentences, a couple of sentences underneath the main heading. And then there you go again. We want people to start a free trial with our product. And again, it's mirrored up in the heading. And of course, you've got those sort of credibility logos along the bottom there as well. So that sort of makes up that very clear headline area on your website. And it's what we refer to as the unique value proposition. So, you know, have a think about what is it that makes your business different? Who are you talking to? What's it about? Bit of extra information. And then what do you want people to do after they've taken that information in? So Office Vibe and Glow clearly want you to start the free trial. So take an action, go back to your website again, have a look at it, and make sure that main heading is really, really clear. No fluffy language at all. Just make it very to the point and obvious about what your business does and how it helps people. And this is definitely a pet hate of mine, but also genuinely a waste of space on your website. And again, it's still something that you quite commonly do see still. Welcome to our estate agency. Thank you so much for coming to our website, and that sort of stuff. And it's a complete waste of space, as though no one's welcome on your website. Of course they're bloody welcome on your website. So don't put that there. Be literal with what it is that your business helps people with. So if you have got welcome, please get rid of it. The 4th out of 5 tips then. So you've probably seen this before, and it's very, very common nowadays that you do see it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's implemented on your website yet. So the sticky header is the header of the website. We've got the logo in the menu, and it follows you down the page. As you scroll down through all the content, the header sort of stays with you all the way. So I'll show you an example of that in a second. So the reason this is a good thing to implement on your site is that obviously your main menu is your signposts for your website, isn't it? You want people to go to your products page or your services page, or read more about the team, or contact us, or the blog, or whatever it is. They're your signposts for getting around your website. But if you've got a lot of content on your page, it's a really long page, and people have scrolled 3/4 of the way down, they've got to scroll all the way back up again to get back to that main menu. So it's good practice to make sure that header just follows people all the way down. Doesn't have to take up too much room. It can just be kind of quite discreetly up at the top there. But then if they have scrolled 3/4 of the way down, they can very quickly get back to that main menu without having to scroll all the way back up again. So it's really good practice to implement the sticky header on your website. So it's an easy one for you to check. Clearly, you can open your website now as I'm talking and scroll down the page and see if it follows you down. I'm going to use the Northern Affinity as an example with this one, so we can see that this is the services page. This is the bit where I hope it's going to take you. So hopefully you can now, I'm on the Northern Affinity website now. I've come away from my presentation. So as I scroll, if you keep an eye on where it says the Northern Affinity at the top, and the apply to join in the menu, and the contact details top left, as I start scrolling, you'll see that the header follows me down the page as I'm scrolling. So this is a good example. It's quite a bit of content on here. There's a few things that we're scrolling past, and we get to a new section of the green bit down here. So I've scrolled quite far down this page now, but the menu bar, this header has followed me all the way down. So if I'm reading this and thinking, oh yeah, business support, that's probably going to be quite useful for my business. I can click find out more there, but I might want to go into the menu and I can just very, very easily do that without having to scroll all the way back up to the top to do that. So it's an easy one for you to check now. So while I'm chatting, open your website, pick a page, doesn't matter, it should do it on every page, and you just scroll down and make sure that that header follows you down. It's also a really easy one for your web developer to implement. A few lines of code, few minutes job, check everything's still okay. Of course, check that it does it on mobiles as well. And then that's a really good kind of extra little usability feature added to your website. So I think, great, there we go. So as I was saying, take action and have a look at your website now and make sure that the header follows you down the screen. So then lastly, I'll recap through them all at the end as well. And then the lastly is the fifth one. I've mentioned it a few times already, actually, is the call to action stuff. I told you that I would come back to that first example that I gave you, the cruise website. But it's interesting to note that this statistic that 70% of small businesses fail to outline clear call to actions on the website. Now, clearly, if you're not a web developer, then it shouldn't really be your job to figure out that that's even something that's needed. It should, of course, be your web developer or marketing agency, whoever's building your website for you. But if you are looking after it yourself and using some kind of templated website yourself and you've done it yourself, then critique the call to actions situation on your website. So before you do that, just have a bit of a think about what you actually do want people to do on your site. So I mentioned it at the very start of the presentation, really, around, there's lots of different things that people might want people to do on their website. So you might want people to phone you. So if that's the case, clearly the phone number needs to be a big call to action on your website. You might want people to fill in a form of some kind. So I don't know, maybe you've got a webinar coming up or an event of some kind, or I don't know, anywhere where you want to collect people's information specifically, then you would want to make sure that that form is very easy to complete. So it's not too long for a start, but then very easy to find, of course, as well. Or maybe you want somebody to download a guide of some kind. You've written a guide to, I don't know, using Sage or Zero for your accounts, or whatever it might be. So something that's going to be of value to your target audience. You might have written a little how-to guide and you want people to download that. So obviously, if you want people to download that, you need to make sure that that call to action is very, very clear on your website in the position where you want people to download. So it's all about making it, they all kind of link together, really, in all honesty, but that uncluttered nature and then very clear call to actions will make it much more likely that people will do these things that you want them to do on your website. If you make it look like this, it's much less likely that people are going to do those things, because they'll just be completely dumbfounded by what it is you want them to do. So make it nice and clear. Like the ZenderNext website, they want you to use their course finder, which is why there's a big white button at the top that says course finder. So if I click on that as an example, I'm going to scroll down. Obviously, the header follows me down the page as I scroll. And then all the way through, you can see these different, very big, clear call to actions. Course finder at the top follows you everywhere. View all courses here. Then it's split by seniority level of the courses that they offer. So you can click on the image, you can click on the button, but it's all very clear and obvious where ZenderNext want you to go next. There you go, another big blue button there as well. So these call to actions are really, really important on your website. So first start by identifying what it is that you want people to do, and then make sure that it's easy for them to do that by making the call to actions really, really obvious. Ooh. Now that does say thank you, but there's supposed to be a recap slide there, so I'm just going to whiz back through them instead. So if we go back to recap 5, number 1, declutter. It's super, super clear and obvious. Not like this, basically. More like that. Get rid of slideshows. I gave you 1 or 2 examples of where they might be relevant, but they're not relevant up at the top of your website with 5 or 6 different slides on them. Nobody interacts with them. So replace them with a very clear headline instead, and a graphic perhaps, or better still, video, because it's so engaging. Number 3, make the headline, the unique value proposition, very, very clear and unambiguous about what your business does in terms of helping the target audience. Remember how I described that it's made up of the main headline, so like a short, punchy headline, a little bit of extra content below to go into a little bit more detail, and then the button. What is it you want them to do? Office Vibe, try it free. Glow, try it free. Get rid of welcome to our website. The sticky header was the 4th one. So make sure the header follows you down the screen. I was just showing you then on that ZenNX website that we were looking at. So wherever people are scrolling down the page, the header follows them all the way down the page. Nice and easy to get back to the main menu, and the call to actions up at the top as well. And then lastly, call to actions again, word phrase of the day. Make them very clear. Make sure you first establish what it is that you want people to do. Remember that so many businesses just forget about them or don't know that they need adding, and then they're wondering why nobody's inquiring through their website. Well, you need to tell people what to do. So if it is a free trial or it is a phone call or download a guide, whatever it is, establish that first and then make it really easy for people to actually take that action. And that's it. So hopefully I was nice and non-techie, and that I have achieved the goal of you being able to go away with one actionable tip that you can implement in your website today. And of course, welcome for the last sort of 10 minutes or so, any questions that anybody might have.
I think that was really great, Phil. Thank you. That was really helpful. I had a few technical issues throughout that, so I'm not sure whether you can see any chats or questions that have come up because they've sort of disappeared from mine, but it might just be worth having a quick look throughout there to see whether there's anything that hasn't been covered in the questions.
I can have a quick look.
I think the call to action clearly is obviously the most important thing. So, you know, the thought behind what goes into that obviously is equally as important. You need to know what you're wanting people to do. It's all very well, you know, having one clear message, but you've got to be really clear about what that one clear message is.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to establish that first, and then hopefully put the bits I've talked about into practice. So I think I'm looking in the right, there's a Q&A box and then a chat box.
I think most of the things are probably in the chat box rather than the Q&A box. So if you just want to have a quick look in there, just double check that there's nothing missing.
Yeah, so there's one from Paula, who is, I'm just reading it. So yeah, Paula's website's currently in development, so it's timely advice. That's great. Is there any chance you could do a top tips, put these gems into written format? Yeah, we're actually in the process of writing quite a few guides similar to this at the moment, Paula. So we've got one in relation to making your website more secure. So there's like a top tip style one for that. So yes, the answer is yes, we could create one for this.
That's fantastic. I'm sure that lots of people find that useful.
Yeah. There you go. Excellent. Thanks. That was it. That was it in terms of questions in the chat there, Sarah. So
brilliant.
I can't actually click on that Q&A thing, so I'm not sure if there's
I don't think there's anything else in there that's been brought up. I think that was really, really helpful. Thank you so much for that.
No worries at all. I'm glad.
And once you have got your downloads or whatever you're doing as your call to action, then please do share them in workplace with with all the partners, because I'm sure that more people that haven't been able to come on today would like to be able to have a look at and share those as well.
Yeah, I absolutely will do. Thanks very much, Sarah.
Brilliant. All right. Any other questions before we go? Shout out now in the chat if you have got anything else you want to ask Phil. If not, then we'll end this for today. Just give a couple more minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
And thank you so much for that, Phil. I'm going to rewatch that, but like I say, due to my technical issues that I had, I'm going to rewatch that and actually go through mine because it needs a bit of a review. Very timely.
No worries. Any questions anybody's got, like you said, Sarah, if you drop them into workplace in next few days, totally fine.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll end that for today. And thank you, Phil. And I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.